You ever look at art and see yourself? You ever converse with a canvas and the colors project a concept, and in this case, creates a portal between the painter and the poet, then the poem and the painting? It is a dialogue of Afrofuturism. With whispers from Sankofa, it was revealing of how the energy envelops all the matter in this room. That is to say, there is information from the past and the present floating in this present moment, which for me began with Pate, DeGroat, and Cope, and the magical inspiration that struck prior to painting that manifested past the frame and expanded its boundary into gallery buildings for the visual voices of blackness to be seen, to be heard, to be experienced, that led to this piece of ekphrastic poetry. So, here is the story. I travel back in time with Pate. A black and white flashback, a walk down the measurement of time to emphasize how long we've come and how long we have to go. But this ghost of our past he introduced me to was trapped in so much trauma he couldn't escape from. I felt for the legacy of my greats, my forefathers who kept their composure confined by collars of generational trauma and literal handcuffs fit for the color of their culture, dressed up in a poem that suits them nicely. Black font, a foil for his skin, title tied in a Windsor knot, a three-piece feature set tailor-made for melanin. I wanted to ask him, is that expression one of apathy or acceptance, disgust or detachment? Perhaps jaded and disillusioned after putting on the cold suit of assimilation and finding out it still comes with a blue slave catcher collar fit to get caught on your PTSD, to get you hung up on your past just when you thought you could run away with your imagination of a better life. He gave me a shrug and said, "It is what it is." His response was my reflection. Out of empathy, I asked, "Are you okay, brother? Is there anything that I can do for your spirit in this present day, my brother? Is that tie a window to your black soul? If so, my God, I can see you are in agony, brother. If time isn't linear, is it never too late for liberation? How can my effort reach back and move us forward?" Then the portal pulled me in. Time shifted to the Great Migration. This was more than an elevation of social status. You could feel the ripples of the collective spiritual shift, and Abner brought me closer to closure to cope with the sharp reality of our past and the shards that are missing from my cracked mirror. But here we travel with our baggage and luxury. A 6 million man march, the Negro's journey through introspection, where the human cuts ties with America's boogeyman projection, and the Negro comes to feel that they are somebody with feelings and stories, beliefs and morals, a soul, and there is so much to unpack along this road from chattel to child of God. But this divine lighting says a change gonna come. Sweet music to regulate the nervous system. It takes hands out of pockets and unclenches fists, takes off the tie and loosens the collar and takes the weight of the coat off the shoulders. I asked him, how did you go from wearing your trauma to making it your luggage? It must have taken you years to get comfortable changing without a fitting room. But what are your plans to unpack it? Will you pass it on to your son? Have him raise and carry the darkest of night through the morning? The work you've done to get us here is I'm grateful for. But I still wish you were here. This generational curse ain't easy to hold, Pops. I do my best to lift it up in poem and in prayer. I hear God's answers. The portal of Greg DeGroat opened and swallowed me whole. Let me know my ancestors left everything I would need within the finest pieces of my design, and I was shown the future of growth, the payoff of our determination, the beautiful prophecy of believing a future of peace existing in this timeline, taking root in my mind and growing into an Afro tree. I logged all the papers about the baggage I pulled out of my trunk that branched into an ecosystem of life that has learned from its lineage, that knows what it owes to one another and contributes to the land as the land contributes to us. A vision of understanding that the internal state of being will manifest externally across time and space, and we must have a standard for who we are when the mind is the only witness. Because if no one else, the DNA in your new generations will remember this. So, to the black men, collectively carrying the weight of what has happened to us in life or lineage, the panic and paranoia of what's possible, the anxiety of facing life or death daily, or the terror of a black man's price for failing while alive, I call you to cleanse. For the first time, I am writing a poem about powerful questions without healing answers, just feelings, empathizing with the observations, just being a witness and participant for the record of how we move through these times. Leaving behind protective and healing sigils in our art to keep our people on the path, to help them feel the emotions that can be too deep to dive into alone. And I write in real time to make this journey just a little less painful, adding a bit of poetry to ease the soul.
The way that my poetry engages with those different pieces to pull out, I really search to get to the humanity of the visual pieces. I tend to explore poetry in a way that is very logistics and all about the intellectual aspect of things, but looking at these pieces made me get to the humanity of what it felt like, what we were experiencing, how that showed up in our face, in our body language. And I wanted to do my best to describe that, to understand that we've been collectively growing, and although this fight has been hard, we have been putting in the work, we have been showing that we've been moving through these times in the best way possible.